We've finally gotten an up-close look at the Fantastic Four in all of their glory, with the trailer not only introducing us to this universe's Fantastic Four and the universe that we'll be exploring in this film, but we also get a few key plot details regarding of how the story could play out in the future of the MCU. Not only do we get to see the Baxter building and the team suited up, but a better look at Galactus as well. But there's one line in particular that stood out to us that we wanted to single out and explore. In this trailer, Reed talks about how the first time they went up, they didn't have their power sets yet. He goes through each member of the family in a touching tribute to their importance to the team. But the key line here is that he specifically says the first time they went up. Not only does this indicate that this launches the origin of their powers, but now they're going back. So today, we want to talk about the idea that the team is planning a second launch, and what we believe the Fantastic Four's mission will be. We know that the Fantastic Four are a team of explorers first, and they're superheroes second. They have always prioritized curiosity and discovery over being the world's superhuman police force. That is the job of the Avengers. Thanks to previous leaks, we know that Reed Richards is investigating the hypothetical existence of the multiverse in this film, but no one from his reality has the know-how or the engineering prowess to actually take a crack at the multiverse and to go to another Earth. Reed, however, is the smartest human in most realities, so this is our first option. We believe that this failed attempt actually had much more severe consequences than we were previously led to believe. We theorized that in the beginning, Reed and the team wanted to break the barriers between reality and another reality close by, but in doing that, we think that they discovered something on their first journey, something that they not only were terrified of, but that made it imperative that they discover the key to multiversal travel. If this is true, then this would mean that Reed is being haunted by something that they encountered before, and this is why Reed is so devoted to going back even after they nearly died the first time. Specifically, we believe that when the team first ventured into the barrier between universes, they made first contact with the World Eater Galactus. Since this ties into the rumors that Galactus will not have any multiversal variants in the MCU, this is going to combine a few of our previous theories as well, beginning with the idea that Galactus is truly one of a kind across all of the multiverse, and that no two realities have variants of Galactus with them. The theory proposes that since Galactus in the comics is a holdover from the Sixth Cosmos, that the same applies to the MCU, and he is again a survivor of the last multiverse. But what this doesn't answer is where he's been this entire time. We also know that a variant of the Silver Surfer will be present in this film, only instead of Norrin Radd, a variant of the character will be Shah-Labal, who comes from the same homeworld as Norrin does. But the point of the Silver Surfer, however, is that Galactus employs different heralds to scout worlds before he devours them, so the arrival of the Surfer would herald the coming of Galactus, but it may be the Fantastic Four's fault in this film. If Reed failed to reach another reality, then it's very possible that in some instances, there is a physical space between timelines, one where someone like Galactus could live. But by punching through the veil that separates Earth 4 from the rest of the multiverse, we believe that the team inadvertently opened a gateway for Galactus to make his way back into a functional reality. If this is true, then it means that Shah-Labal may actually be following them back on their first voyage, clearing the way for Galactus' arrival, and she could be more of a villain. This means from their first launch, they may have accidentally freed Galactus from whatever had been confining him, or in some other way drew the attention of the World Eater. We don't know the full story of what happened during the first launch, but we do know that something went wrong, and that the team ended up gaining their powers as a result, but we haven't been given much of the larger picture at play. What's particularly haunting about the theory, however, is that we may already know how the story ends, and that it could actually end with Galactus consuming this reality. The philosophy behind this theory is simple, and it all boils down to the fact that this version of the team is going to be the centerpiece of the MCU going forward. And as far as we can tell, this will be the primary version of the Fantastic Four even after the conclusion of the multiversal saga. In order for this to happen, they would need to join Earth 616, and we simply can't put up with any strong reasons why they would completely abandon their timeline, their family, and their history indefinitely if it was still intact. One option is that in some way their world does get destroyed, leaving the Fantastic Four and Doom in need of a new home timeline. So when Doomsday begins on Earth 616, they will be hosting the survivors of the form of the Fantastic Four in that universe. Once they arrive on 616, Dr. Doom may begin to cause problems, and leads this into whatever plot of Doomsday will end up entailing. But there is one hypothetical outcome that may allow Earth 4 to survive. The chances are slim, but it's important to address. In the comics after the Secret War storyline, the primary universe was merged with a few different neighboring timelines, which is how Miles Morales became a native of Earth 616, for example. And according to our soft reboot video, we think that the MCU is looking to do something similar. This isn't just one plot of land land that everyone is calling home now, but it is an interwoven history with certain events from each reality, and now they have found their way into this new collective history. If the MCU goes this way, then it would retcon the mutant struggle and the rise of the Fantastic Four in a way that would allow all of their histories to coexist in one reality. This may mean that this post-multiverse, the reality that we're going to see is one where the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men all share a single planet, and they all have a collective history that goes beyond what we've seen on screen. Even if this does happen though, it's not a complete reconstruction of any one reality, as there are pieces of each timeline that needed to be chopped off in order to fit everything together nicely. So if this happens, it would still mean that the vast majority of Earth 4 would have been destroyed. Some historic events, notable individuals, shreds of technology, and bits of their domain could remain intact, but that Fantastic Four may have to make a dire sacrifice that results in their relocation to a new reality. This would then also apply to Earth 616, and the reality that we've been referring to as Earth X. This is the reality that we see at the end of the Marvels, where the X-Men are well established and appear to have been active for years here. The idea is that Reed and Doom's rivalry runs so deep that it has persisted so long that it can only be the product of decades of back and forth. In the comics, their feud goes back to their college years, and if the ages of Robert Downey Jr. and Pedro Pascal are an indication, we know that Reed and Doom are in their late 40s or early 50s. Reed is already married, and we don't see this rivalry being a sudden thing after the Fantastic Four. Therefore, Doom may also be from this universe as well if Marvel wants to get this duo right. So if the events of Avengers Doomsday actually see Earth 616 fighting alongside Earth 4 in order to stop Doom from creating Battleworld, collapsing the multiverse as we know it into one twisted take on what was previously the sacred timeline, but now it is ruled only by Dr. Doom. The main point of the theory, however, is that if it's true, and if Earth 4 has been sentenced to die by Galactus' hand, and if he followed the team back to their first expedition, this would mean the destruction of Earth 4 would be the Fantastic Four's fault by default and by proxy. They could shoulder the guilt of leading Galactus back to their world if this is the outcome that Marvel is setting up. And if at the end of the film actually does end with the Fantastic Four beating Galactus, but escaping on their second launch, this could end up being a second mission, but an escape pod that would get the family away from a dying world and to lead Galactus elsewhere. One of them themselves are ultimately going to hold themselves responsible for this, however. It is important to mention Dr. Doom though, since this theory is contingent on him and the team both surviving this reality and knowing Doom. It is highly likely that he has already been working on multiversal travel for himself separate from Reed. There is no one that Dr. Doom loathes more than Reed Richards, and he is always clawing his way to higher extremes with the express intention of outsmarting him. Doom has an insatiable desire to be smarter and more successful than Reed, and so as soon as he catches wind of Reed and trying to touch the multiverse itself, we can promise you that Doom will be working on multiversal travel as well. As far as we can tell though, the first launch made headlines and was a significant event in this reality, so it's very likely that Doom knows of Reed's plan to break into a neighboring timeline. This would mean that Dr. Doom has had all the time between the announcement of Reed's first launch to the destruction of the timeline to come up with a plan of his own, and that's more than enough leeway for Dr. Doom to figure out a solution for himself. There's even the possibility that it will be Doom who saves the teams from the destruction of Earth 4, with no other reason than to hold it over Reed's head for the rest of their lives. Doom will always be able to sleep peacefully knowing that Reed was not smart enough to save his family, and when push came to shove, it was Doom who Reed needed. It was Doom who saved the family, and it was Dr. Doom who will always be responsible for that. Reed not only destroyed his timeline, but he also struggled to save his family. This is something that Doom will revel in until the end of time, which, based on the track of the multiverse, may be sooner than we all think. But anyway, friends, what do you think of the idea that the team actually led Galactus to their doorstep? How likely is it that Shala Bal and Galactus followed them from their first voyage? And will Earth 4 be destroyed in the Fantastic Four film? As always, my friends, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope you're having a great one.